Da da da! What's your good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into my lives, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I have been literally in the inside for 4 days now. Today was the first day that I stepped out of my apartment to throw a bag of garbage down the garbage chute and to do a couple of loads of laundry. Other than that, I thought I would give myself one more day to recuperate. I am feeling much better. I only laid down for 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half, right? I laid down for today. And then I got right up and I spent the rest of the day up and about, washing my floors, doing some laundry, cleaning the bathroom. And I was kind of proud of myself. Now, you guys know that in accomplishment, that's what makes me feel good. But with this experience that I've had in the past 4 years, 4 days, these past 4 days, I got a bit of a wake up call just to recognize that I'm not 20 anymore because I don't have kids and grandkids. I don't have anything to reflect back at me my age, not even my hair. Nice and easy, extra light blonde, right? And it's been that color since I was 16 years old. Earlier this year, I stopped coloring my hair, but it didn't suit me. I think for as long as I can manage to stay blonde, even at 100 years old, I'm going to stay blonde. I didn't even have gray hair. It was absolutely dark. I didn't realize that my hair was dark. I have been naturally blonde, but I like that bleach blonde. It's bright and it's cheery, and I've always liked it with a tint of color in the bangs. But in staying inside today, I took in quite a bit when it came to not perspectives, they were actually questions, right? We talked about this a little bit yesterday, Tammy, how I should vocalize a little bit more my emotions, my wants, my needs. And it's not that I don't have them, I do, but usually my conversations are inside my head. They're not in the exterior. And especially, was it Earl came in yesterday or Eugene? Eugene came in yesterday and he talked about talking to Jesus. Was that you? My memory's kind of bad. I've been kind of out of it for a few days here, but you or Earl, it was Earl, and Earl was talking about how much he actually talks to Jesus. He talks to the angels. He actually vocalizes during the course of his day verbally. And I gave that a shot today because I have my own questions as to my little bit of movement and where I want to go. And also in that idea of where I sit amongst others who are just kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing, but in their own spectacular ways, right? And I think that's absolutely amazing because there should be lots of perspectives out there, lots of choices. It's how I came into some of these ideas that I have now because everything was presented to me like on an appetizer platter, right? That I got to pick and choose from. I wasn't asking from permission for anybody. In fact, I didn't know anybody who was making movement like I was. And I did try to find my place out there. It didn't quite work out the way that I had wanted it to or expected it to. And I'm a little bit embarrassed by my enthusiasm as to where there was all going to go. But I also, you guys, I have to be that example for everybody, that I have to leave myself willing to be able to pick and choose for myself. It's something I've never had the privilege of doing. I've always bumbled along in other people's dictation and other people's ideas of who I am or what I should be doing, or right. And it was very rarely positive. And life was a struggle in that. Maybe it was in that controlling ideas that, we can say we don't have, but we do have. We have very controlling ideas about our own movement and where we want to go and where we expect to be going. But it doesn't always work out the way that we want it to. And that's an honest truth. And that's a truth by my own experience. And Tammy has been in to a lot of my lives, going back, oh my goodness, maybe 8 or 9 years. Some of those live shows that she's been watching, she has been delving deep. And I really appreciate it. And she gives me her perspectives in her life, and she gives those little tips along the way. And I really appreciate that because, again, I have to be willing to feel myself out. I have to be willing in being course corrected in what I get wrong. But I don't think I would be here right now if I had made some bad decisions in that. Hello, Eugene. Hello, Eugene. And yeah, thank you for letting me know, Tammy. Your memory is good, better than mine. But like I said, I am coming out of a pretty rough 4 days. I feel 100 times better today. And like I said, I've been up and out, not out and about, but I have been moving around quite a bit, getting some things done, and I can feel I'm a little bit more agile and I have a little bit more energy, and the pain is not consistent. The tiredness is. I'll probably go to bed right after my live show. But oh, thank you, Tammy. That makes me feel better. But it's the way that I was brought up. You can just tell when I say that joy is because of that sense of accomplishment, just doing the laundry and washing and sweeping the floors today and doing a few dishes. Like it did me in, but I felt good in that. But I have to recognize that the lesson that I've had in the past 4 years, or 4 days, I did it again, the past 4 days, that I've been going through an experience I have never had before, and there were lessons in that. And I know that those problems that we have, those small catastrophes and hiccups and heartbreaks and grief that come into our life, they're coming into our life because we're not just dealing with our own choices, right? We're rubbing shoulders and bumping into people who are making choices for themselves at the same time. So tonight I thought, because we had that word companionship 4 times out of 7, no, out of 6 days, no, out of 5 days, because I'm back here tonight. Tomorrow will be a day off. So 4 out of 5 days, I have had the word companionship. And so today, in taking my lessons and talking to the angels, right? And you see how I smile in that because I'm trying in that, right? But it's in being willing to be expanded in my understanding. And it actually worked, Tammy, right? I wanted to know a little bit about this word companionship because it did come up 4 times today. And right away, I sat down and I wrote 3 pages of notes. I'm kind of iffy because you know what happened to me last time I made a point list. It didn't quite work out for me, but I did read it before I delved into it. And I think it's important because that companionship, which is most important to us, is us, ourselves, that companionship with ourselves in taking care of ourselves and foreseeing the issues and the problems a little bit further ahead and kind of softening the way, clearing the trail, clearing the path so that it's not as difficult, it's not as scary, right? It's not as hard as we think it's going to be. Sometimes, and this is the way that I taught is just in not giving up and just moving forward. So I talked a little bit to the angels today, right? And I made some notes here and I thought we'd stick in with that idea of companionship, keeping in mind that the most important companion in our lives is ourselves. We only have control over our own actions, our own thoughts, and our own emotions. And not everybody is going to get us. Not everybody is going to understand and realizing and recognizing that in my own perspectives and what I'm feeling out there, they're only feelings and understandings. I'm not even quite sure where they come from, right? I'm grateful that they're there, but I have to be willing to be course corrected in my own misunderstandings. As humans, we all have free choice. And what we were talking about this week, it is relevant to admit, each one of us, that we make bad choices. And because we want to be feeling like we got things under the control, that we have all the answers, that we don't want to be looking like a fool, that sometimes we will stay in what's not good for us. And we're talking relationships. We make bad choices. Each one of us make bad choices, especially when it comes to relationships, because with relationships, each one of us wants something different, don't we? And we don't all have those understandings or those lessons or tools along our tool belt. And so we have to be respectful of other people's decisions, other people's choices, and whether or not they're making a good choice or a bad choice. Even for myself, for each one of us, we make our own choices, right? I make bad choices all the time. I have no idea where I put my favorite pair of rubber ducky pajama pants, and those 10 minutes that I had in being able to set up for my live show and make a cup of tea only has me opening up a bottle of water. My third bottle of water today. I'm kind of proud of myself in that. And I noticed the difference in taking in more water. I wish I had started that, oh my goodness, years ago. But I'm not a big fan of water. I don't like the taste of chlorine in the water. But this is spring water. Like this has no flavor at all. I could have done bottled water, but sometimes it's in those horror stories about plastic elements floating around in the water. And then when you see those documentaries and they cut open fish and they're full of bread tags and garbage bags and sandwich bags and twist ties that don't dissolve, that the body cannot dispel out of it. And I guess that was kind of the reason why I didn't want to do bottled water. But I think drinking bottled water is better than not drinking any water at all. I was drinking diet pop, I was drinking tea, I was drinking coffee, I was drinking diluted crystals, right? And my sister got me some Kool-Aid. Haven't tried any of them yet, but I will. I'll make myself a big jug of Kool-Aid. That will make me feel better. And I know it'll make me feel better because only in the past few days I'm going to attribute me getting better. I'm not quite there yet, but then again, I stayed up all day today. I didn't lay down at all, and the pain in my neck is gone. I have a little bit of pain in my shoulder, but I'm just going to pull my bra straps down my arms because I think that's what's bothering me is my bra straps, right? And just staying in my thoughts on this subject, right? And I thought I would mention lots of times we choose broken partners, like totally broken partners. We fall into partnership and relationships with humans and we make bad choices in that because we make those choices so quickly, right? Because we each have needs, right? Like you need help in paying your house bills, that you want to have children, and right? It's now or never. And I was there, right? When I separated from my husband, I was still, right? I was still there. It was now or never. And I went out there and I got myself pregnant. And it didn't work for me, and I almost died. I was in the hospital for like 3 weeks with a tubal pregnancy that exploded on the operating table. And but that was making bad choices in my relationships, because if I had spent that time on myself, I might have come out of my sadness, my grief, and the breakup of my marriage a little bit sooner, right? And also, I don't think I would have dishonored my husband that way, that there might have been a possibility that we could have made it work, that we could have resolved some issues. I don't think so. I was in pretty deep into my gambling addiction. And I'm somebody, once I am rejected, I have a really hard time without that feeling that somebody is truly sorry for hurting me. And it was really hard for me, that breakup, and I felt betrayed in it. So I can't really say that we would have had a chance of getting back together. But after that tubal pregnancy, I never tried to get pregnant again. I decided to give my life a shot by myself. I didn't want to do relationships, right? Anymore. That I didn't feel that there was anybody out there for me. And that's funny that I think that way, because in my lifetime, I have had some amazing men come into my life that held me in high esteem, that loved me deeply, but because of my mistrust, right, and being hurt and wondering why, these good looking guys were, right, chasing after me when I didn't feel that I had any attractiveness, that I didn't have any intelligence, that I didn't have anything contribute, that I was having jobs that were minor, that were low, low on the totem pole, right? That I was never going to contribute. And I did. There were times when I did make very good money, and I didn't realize that money wasn't as important as I thought it was, right? And I think that comes from my dad bringing home that 25-pound bag of rice when he had those bad gambling days and knowing that we would have to buckle down. Also, listening, right, to my mother and my sister, who were really pretty brutal when it came to setting me in my place and understanding where my place was, which they had no right to do that because as humans, we have free choice. I didn't even have a shot. I didn't even have a choice. It was just dictated to me. And silly me just took that baton and I ran with that. I ran with that. But you know what? When I ran with that, I ran right to hospitality and customer service. And that was something I excelled at. I really excelled in that. And of course, being empathic and always feeling bad that I'm not contributing enough and I'm not working hard enough and I didn't matter, that I was always trying to prove to everybody around me that I did matter, but nobody saw that, and if they did, they didn't let me know in any way, right? So we pick bad partners for ourselves quite often for different reasons. Like I said, we're looking to fill our gaps where we're weak at. So for myself, I wanted to enjoy my life. You guys hear me say all the time. I just wanted to create the best life for myself as I possibly could, right? Living through my father's experience and how he lived his life to the very best of his abilities and how he utilized everybody to make sure that that happened. And I really hope, of course, there were catastrophes and hiccups and wrenches thrown into the engine. That happens to the best of us, right? But I hope that my father on his last days that he had a chance to look back and recognize that he created a pretty magnificent life for himself. I mean, he beat the expectations by 25 years. The doctor told him that he wasn't going to live very long and he was able to live till he was 47 years old and create a family, and a family that I know that he loved very, very much, right? But we are looking for people to fill our gaps, to make those things that we're not good at a little bit easier so that we don't have to worry, right? That everybody, and it makes sense to me that my dad would have run his house on archetype because everybody had their role to play in that household. But that's not to say that he made bad choices in that, right? And it's not even to say that they were his choices, because lots of times we go along with others because we think that they can make better choices for us. And I've done that, oh my goodness, well into my 50s, right? My sister was the matriarch in my family when my father passed away, and she dictated the roost for sure. She did a very, very good job at it, to be honest. But the thing is, in the dictation, she made choices where she shouldn't have made choices, because you should only be making choices for yourself. You can't dictate to others. You have to allow their positions and where they stand to evolve themselves so that everybody can have a chance to. We're going to send some good cheer. I got a fire station right behind my apartment block, so that's the first time in a few days that we've had those fire trucks go by. I think maybe once this week. um Go with your heart, Cindy. Just read to us or talk to us with what you wrote today. I am open to everything and I'm a great listener. You're beautiful, Tammy. Oh my goodness, you're beautiful. Yeah, but we know what happened last time when I had to go on a point list. It didn't really work for me, but this was a flow. And I believe that, because of the questions I shot out there and how I immediately recognized that the topic tonight has to be companionship. Like it's too much of a coincidence that that word showed up so many times in the past week, right? But I can try this. Um, Choosing broken partners that will fulfill needs that we are not willing to bear alone or at all, um, or allow in our own brokenness, allowing themselves to be enslaved to our coping mechanisms by sacrificing their own movement forward. And that is so scary. I gave that a lot of thought today, that so many people out in the world, and it reminds me of a saying that one of my favorites put out there, that the person who was supposed to cure cancer is working at McDonald's because of bad choices, because of making wrong choices, by making whatever was comfortable, which was not as scary or not as hard, and thinking that it didn't matter. But in the end, it stopped them from moving forward, because that's what they were supposed to give to the world, was that cure of cancer, and they never did it, right? That they never did it. But they could wake up tomorrow and make a different choice, couldn't they? They could say, "Oh my goodness, I'm going back to university. I'm not going back to university. I'm going to be 65 this year. I'm done with school." But, at somebody who's 20 years old or 30 years old, if they chose to, they could pick up on that idea that they wanted to be a scientist, that they wanted to dabble in medicine and see if they could cure cancer or some other disease along the way that would benefit the world, and in the end benefit them, because they get to stay on that movement. But instead they are stuck, right, another lifetime, and not knowing, because they have no idea what they did wrong, right? Because it didn't even cross their mind that they were supposed to be a doctor or a surgeon, right? I have no idea what I was meant to be, but in my willingness to be pulled along, my willingness to listen to those other parts of me, and to also treat myself like I mattered. That was a big promise that I made to myself, that going forward, I understood I can only make choices for myself, right? I can only understand my own emotions, right? If I choose to, because lots of people, they don't want to look back there. They don't want to go over those difficult memories and see where they actually got it wrong, or see that they were actually directed to go in a wrong direction. And I truly believe that's what happened to me, but I made it here somehow because I was willing to give it a shot. And I'm giving it a shot, but not with any bachelor degrees or anything like that, right? But I'm here anyway, taking a shot at what I think I was meant to do, meant to be. And again, that was another lesson, right? That your purpose comes from your pain. And you guys all know about my childhood pain, so we're not going to rehash that. But, lots of times we feel bad in the what ifs, or I could have been, or I should have. And it makes us feel bad. It makes us want to give up. And any kind of movement that you can make in this lifetime, right? It just means one lesson less that you're going to have to do in the next lesson. That in the end, those missions that the angels divvied out to you, or Jesus divvied out to you, or the whoever or the whatever divvied out to you, that you actually have a fair shot at accomplishing what you want to accomplish, right? What you want to accomplish, and not be stuck doing what somebody else wants you to do. We are only human, and with free choice, we become blinded by our own needs, right? That ego, those, right? Having a roof over your head, having somebody who can cook dinner really well, somebody who can take care of your children the way that you want them to take care of your children, that they can make sure that they're not just moving forward, but you're all moving together. You're all moving forward together, understanding that you're all in different states, right? You're all meant to do something different. So it would make sense. I look at my sisters, they're not even close to making choices in their movement forward, but that's what this life has dictated to them. And it doesn't matter how much I rub up against them, because if I rub up against them too much, they get really agitated by that. And some of them politely smile at me because they love me and they care for me, but it doesn't change. And yet I have two nieces and a nephew. All three of them woke up to their own ideas, like their own ideas, right? And I don't even work with them in any way because they're doing something completely different, and they have different expectations for their own lives, right? One of my nieces wants to be an amazing mother, amazing wife, and she's doing that for herself. I have another niece who is traveling, literally traveling the world and living her best life. And she's not even thinking about dating or anything. And she's well into her 20s, like late 20s now. And she has a great job, makes good money. She loves her job. She lives at home with my sister, which is beneficial to my sister and my beautiful brother in law, who I'm so grateful has come into our lives, that our bloodlines are now mixed together because, he is my sister's husband, but I was madly in love with his brother, right? And I felt out his brother's heart. But then again, in our own choices, in what we need or what we feel we need, or those gaps that we need to be filled, we make bad choices, right? Or we make good choices too. Um, Both of my parents saw my light, right? There is no doubt in that. Just the way that I agitated my mother, the way she reacted whenever she was around me. My dad was always trying to make up because he knew exactly what my mother was doing to me, but he didn't step in, right? He was an enabler in that relationship that he had with my mother. But he felt bad. right? And I actually remember one time, I don't know what it was, but I wasn't very old. I might have been 13 or 14 years old. And I remember yelling at my dad, I hate you. And it was the most horrid experience that I could have ever put him through, and I never did it again. I think for a week he was taking me to movies and out for dinner, and he'd be sending me off to the corner store for a case of pop. We were doing takeout. He was just overstepping himself. And I could tell that I made him feel absolutely horrible when I said that I hated him. I didn't hate him. I was just being a teenager. I was just being a kid. And he probably said no to something that I wanted. And I threw a tantrum in that. But I recognized, like, what kind of father does that? It was the one and only time that I had done that. And yes, my father was very sensitive, but not so sensitive that you're going to let your kids get away with stuff like that. But he did stumble over himself, and I thought it very, very odd. And I gave it some serious thought at the time. It was a lesson for me. I never did it ever again, especially when he knew how much I loved him, that he was my hero. He was my savior. He was king of the castle, and he was the only one who loved me, I believed, right? And so I knew that both of them saw my light and other experiences too, but I'm not here to divvy it out and pour it all onto the table, because I know my part just as well as I know their part in that, right? They each harvested in what I did not know I held. They harvested all that light I had. I couldn't be optimistic. I couldn't be happy at home if my mother was there, because she kept me in a negative state. And in a negative state, no positive can come out of that. And I recognized that a lot of my dad making up for the wrongs that my mother did, it was to bring that light back into me so that I could shine on him, right? I think my dad thought God dropped me into that family as a gift to him. I think he did. I truly think. And I think that's probably why, right, I got utilized the way that I was utilized. Uh, my father bathed in my light, and he controlled my light, you know, so that I would not evolve into my own evolution before he did, right? He was king of the castle. Men are like that. They want to move forward first. And because I wasn't woke to any ideas and he was, right? Of course, he felt he was the best leader, right? And possibly he was, right? Because I have no idea how long um, I was in a negative state. How many years, how many decades, how many lifetimes? I don't I don't know. I don't have any memories of that. So I was really grateful for Earl's little insight there, how he talks to the angels all the time. So I did a little bit of talking to the angels. Um, Yeah, so a lot of this I just kind of went on a spiel. I'm not somebody. I understand that we make mistakes. We all make terrible mistakes in our movement forward. And we can only do the very best that we can. But I think, in being the example for others, we have to be willing to admit our imperfectness. We have to be able to admit our mistakes. And I think as a human race, more of us, not just the empaths. I don't know if you're anything like me, Tammy, in this, but I apologize constantly. It's one thing that I have not resolved, right? But my apologies are always heartfelt. And I think it's important that when we do wrong by others, that we should genuinely express that, we are sorry. And it was something my dad used to say, when us kids would be up to no good, and we go up to him when he caught us, and he always caught us, right? And we would apologize, right? Because we knew that's what he expected. He expected us to apologize. And he would say, there's no use being sorry unless you know what you're sorry for. And that is so 100% true. Uh, Thank you for that little bit of I second that. I don't get those very often, Tammy, and I appreciate you give them to me often, and I trust that you're not. Uh, and it's like I said, right? God, right? If I'm going to say that word, is not expecting us. We are evolving. We're not Neanderthals anymore. But I think in this day and age, we are not Homo sapiens anymore either. That because technology and the digital age and AI learning, that our brains have expanded into something a little bit different. What, you think we were going to look like this forever? I hope not. I think the next time I come around, I would be perfectly happy not to deal with periods every month. That kind of sucked as a woman, right? But there are lots of things about our bodies that don't exist anymore, right? We used to have tails. We still have a tail, but it's only like this big. It's only remnants from, right, way back when. There are other organs that we think are useless now, but they were something probably that we needed way back when. And also, depending on where you live, because if you lived up in the Himalayas, it's why they always hired the guides that were actually from, right, actually lived in the Himalayas, because they were adapted to low oxygen. So they wouldn't die like somebody from another country would, because they were used to low oxygen in the air, right? So depending where you live, you would be adaptable. There are villages, because they can't live on land for political reasons or whatever, that they have made villages on the coast, like in the water, right? And they're magnificent swimmers. They spend all their time fishing and digging for oysters at the bottom of the ocean, and they can hold their breath for like 7 minutes. And right, it's just absolutely incredible. But without living in those cultures, in those countries, it's not like all of us are going to evolve with those capabilities. And as we amalgamate and assimilate with each other, it's quite possible those will be lost gifts, right? I think part of what's going on with this day and age, this age of AI learning, is for us to all be able to get on a better, more common familiarity into our understandings, right? Not to be so different. Again, it's one of those reasons why I try to, right, stay out of the stirring of the pot. There are people that are in there and they're watching and they're holding the picket signs and stuff, But that's their mission. That's what God has asked them to do. But God's not asking me to do that. God's asking me to delve into the inside and the outside, and that my purpose comes from my pain, right? And it has served me well. It stops me from being distracted, right? It's not like I don't get distracted. I most definitely do. But I try really hard to overcome. I'm so grateful that I'm doing lots of water, you guys. But getting back to companionship, it's about making good choices for us, right? And I'm not saying that we should divorce and split. It doesn't serve the children. But I think what we can do in rectifying that is to make better choices. Decide for us what's important. Do you want to be in love? Do you want to be in lust? Do you want to be after somebody who's going to make lots of money and make your life easy? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to be single, right? Do you want to be bisexual or homosexual, right? And there are a lot of beliefs and stands in that too. But we are drawn to what we're drawn to do. And if you feel adamantly that that's what you need to be doing, then that's what you need to be doing. And I know that personally because of some of the close relationships that I had with beautiful people, and you couldn't budge them an iota into making them straight. You couldn't. And I wouldn't love him or love them any less either way, right? Because in this lifetime, that's what they're called for, right? And as long as they're on their mission and they're shining their light, then they are good to go. And as humans, that's their choice. And if they're making a bad choice, right, that's what karma's all about, right? So when it comes to companionship for me personally, I think that priority companionship will be to myself, that I will spend a little bit more time talking to the angels, talking to God, talking to whoever or whatever, and just continue to let myself be drawn, be willing to be drawn to where I'm supposed to be. It is worked out so far. So we might as well just keep moving in that direction. Okay, you guys, let's see if we get that word companionship tonight. That would be absolutely crazy. I would have a little bit of a freak out if it happened again. But I think I learned some lessons in that today. And those lessons came from me asking for a little bit of guidance, a little bit of insight, right? A little bit of direction, a little bit of understanding. And I do it all the time in my head, but I never do it vocally. Like I said, I could walk down the sidewalk. I'm going to go outside tomorrow, you guys, for the first time in 5 days. I'm going outside tomorrow. I've been in the house for 4 days now. Today I'm feeling so much better, and it's a day off tomorrow. I need some milk for my tea, so I'm going to go to the grocery store at the very least and get some milk. It's supposed to be really nice. Spring is here. I was looking out the window all day today. I'm going to take my blind down just so I can look at. There's still snow on the ground, but the sidewalks are clear and the bicycle paths are clear and the road is clear. So it's the boulevards and the yards that still got snow on them. But if it continues like this, it'll only be a few days and it will be gone. And I'll feel so much better and I'll take care of myself, right? Understanding that I don't have anybody to mirror back my age to me. No grandkids, no kids, no husband with gray hair to say, Cindy, you're 65 years old. I don't have that. When I look in the mirror, I don't see that. And so I have to remember I'm 65 years old this year. And so it's important for me to recognize that I'm not going to be 20 forever. And I'm going to take that lesson that I've had in these past 4 days very, very seriously. I'm going to take good care of myself. I'm going to be a good companion to myself so that I can be around for another 50 years. Okay, you guys, just turn the cards around so I don't see them. We're just going to give them a little bit of a shuffle. And then we're going to grab a card, just go into it for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to shut everything down, I think. And oh no, there was one video I wanted to watch tonight. This gentleman, the title is What Years of Extreme Isolation Have Done to Me. It looks like something that would be very, very relevant when I come across people who do that. I have spent a lot of time on my own in this lifetime, and I haven't, when he says extreme isolation, I don't know what extreme is in comparison to my extreme. Uh, but who's to say? Until I know, I won't know. So I'm going to watch that. It's only 20 minutes and then I'm going to go to bed. Okay, you guys, so let's grab a card. Hope everybody has a great weekend. If you guys want to pop in on Sunday night and hang out with us, we have a great crew. Tammy is there. I love having Tammy on my live shows. She keeps everybody yapping and she really does bring good cheer. I hope she enjoys her time with us too, right? She doesn't feel it necessary. If you ever feel that you need a day off, that you, right, that you just can't handle Cindy one more day this week, make sure you give yourself that day off, right? Because you deserve it. Because remember, right? You have to be the number one companion to yourself in your life. Okay. And Cindy, your channel is so vital because what I like about your channel is you explore the inside and the outside, and that's great. Keep doing what you do, Cindy. You are making a difference in lives. Oh, Tammy. You're just so sweet. Feed that ego. Feed that ego. Look at my face turning red. You're very sweet. I appreciate all of you 100%. Okay, you guys. Whoopsie. One more shuffle and then we'll pick a card. Okay. We'll just take this card because it's easy to pull. Movement. Movement is an action that gravitates to the result, right? Just keep moving forward. Just be willing, right? You don't have to know what direction you're going in because the little catastrophes, the little hiccups will give you, right? Will give you a direction in where you need to go. I mean, it's like if your sink trap blows on you, well, that's the priority in your movement forward. That's the first thing you need to get done because, well, you got to wash your dishes, don't you? And the result in that is you able to get that done. So it's not about knowing where you're supposed to be going. I started this, I had no idea in the direction that I was heading into. And in truth, I'm not quite sure in this moment either. But I think if I keep moving forward, right, that it will be revealed to me like it has always been revealed to me. And I trust, like I trust in myself, right? You know, and it has to be that way because it has to be my choice, right? Because that's the only thing that I can have total liability in is my choices, my emotions, and my thoughts. Movement is an action that gravitates to the result. Leave yourself willing. Be open. Live your life the way you want to live your life. Make sure you feel like you matter because you matter, right? We all matter, but the world we live in, right? Those power trips out there, we're all made to think that somebody else matters and we don't. You guys, that's my good cheer, and we'll see you on Sunday. And if not Sunday, I'll be back on Monday. Have a great night.